Most people obsess over their mortgage rate, their car payment, their credit card minimum, but almost nobody sits down and asks the single question that actually determines whether they're winning or losing with money. We're talking about your effective interest rate across all your debts. And if you've never calculated it, buckle up, because what you're about to discover might genuinely change how you sleep at night. Right now, the average American household is carrying over $100,000 in total debt across mortgages, auto loans, student loans, and revolving credit. And the wildest part is that most of those people couldn't tell you what their blended cost of that debt actually is. It's like running a business where you have no idea what your cost of goods is and somehow expecting to turn a profit. Think of it this way. Your debts are like a portfolio. And just like a stock portfolio has a blended return, your debt portfolio has a blended cost. And that number is the single most important financial signal in your entire life right now. The problem is that the financial system isn't exactly incentivized to make this easy for you to see. Because the moment you see it clearly, you start making smarter decisions that cost banks money. Here's the mechanic behind it. You take each debt balance, multiply it by its interest rate, add all of those products together, then divide by your total debt, and what you get is your weighted average or effective interest rate. If your mortgage is $200,000 at 7%, your car is $20,000 at 9%, and your credit card is $10,000 at 24%, your effective rate isn't 7%, it's closer to 9.5%. And that difference is silently devastating your net worth. There's a period not that long ago, call it 2020 and 2021, when rates were so low that people felt almost invincible carrying debt. A 3% mortgage felt like free money. Refinances were flying out the door, and the general vibe was that debt was basically a cheat code. Then 2022 happened. The Fed went on the most aggressive hiking campaign in 40 years, and suddenly, the same people who felt clever now felt trapped. The psychological whiplash from that era is real, and it still hasn't fully unwound. Economists like Mohamed El-Erian were warning about transitory inflation being a policy mistake. And yet millions of households locked in adjustable products or kept floating balances on cards, assuming rates would stay low. And now they're paying the price of that optimism in very literal monthly installments. Here's the historical reality check. Every single debt cycle in modern memory, the savings and loan crisis of the 1980s, the credit card defaults of the 1990s, and the mortgage meltdown of 2008 has followed the same arc of cheap money encouraging loose behavior, followed by a correction that punishes the unprepared. The anecdote that always sticks with me is the homeowner in 2006 who was bragging about their interest-only ARM at 4.5%, not realizing the reset in 2 years would feel like financial whiplash. We forget these lessons faster than we learn them. Here's the bigger picture truth. Debt cycles are just boom-bust cycles wearing a different outfit, and the communities and investors who survive them are always the ones who knew their numbers cold. Reddit's personal finance community has a saying that's genuinely wise. The borrower who knows their effective rate sleeps better than the one who just knows their minimum payment. And that's not just folk wisdom. That's the difference between being reactive and being strategic. The biggest misconception people carry is that as long as you're making all your payments, you're fine. That's like saying your business is healthy because the checks are clearing. You can be technically solvent and still be structurally hemorrhaging wealth if your blended debt cost is higher than your investment returns. The math doesn't care about your feelings or your credit score. It just keeps compounding. So here's what you actually do with this information. Once you calculate your effective rate, you now have a benchmark. Any investment opportunity that doesn't beat that rate after tax is, mathematically speaking, a worse use of capital than paying down debt. If your effective rate is 9.5%, that's essentially a guaranteed 9.5% return every time you make an extra principal payment, and no savings account on earth is touching that right now. The discipline here is everything. And this is where most people stumble. They calculate their effective rate once, feel bad, and then go back to autopilot. The move is to review it quarterly. Treat debt paydown as an investment with a known return, and resist the emotional pull of shiny new opportunities when your existing debt is eating your lunch. Position size matters too. Don't throw your entire emergency fund at debt in one dramatic gesture, because liquidity is its own form of protection. At the philosophical level, this whole exercise isn't really about math, it's about clarity. And clarity is the antidote to financial anxiety. When you know your number, you stop making decisions based on vibes and start making them based on reality. And that shift in orientation is worth more than any single financial move you could make. The people who build real wealth aren't necessarily the ones who made the best bets. They're the ones who consistently understood what the game actually cost them to play. And look, whether rates go up, whether they go down, whether the Fed pivots next quarter or not, none of that changes the value of knowing your effective rate right now. You can't control the macro environment, but you can absolutely control whether you're operating with clear information or comfortable ignorance, and only one of those compounds in your favor. If this reframed how you think about debt, good, that was the whole point, because awareness without action is just expensive entertainment. Calculate your effective rate this week. Write it down, and then ask yourself honestly whether your current financial strategy is beating it. And if you want help putting this into action, whether that's real estate investing, home contracting, work, or connecting with the right lenders, check out our links in the description below.